Friends, we have an economic crisis that is developing. I've been trying to warn you about this, that we're already in recession, but things are getting really, really spicy out there. We're starting to see some major cracks in some of the loans, particularly subprime auto loans. We just got the numbers in from that. We're going to be sharing those with you. We're going to be sharing what's going on out there with consumer credit, how much credit card debt Americans have. The numbers are going to just blow your mind on that. We got major job increases for non-Americans, and we got chaos and terrorism as America stops giving free money to everybody on the planet. That and a whole lot more we need to cover. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and these are the things that the mainstream media won't want to cover. Now, they do want to start telling you how bad the economy is because they now think it's going to reflect poorly on Donald Trump. But they don't care about you. They just want to score some cheap political points. I want you to be warned about what's coming and what's already started so that you can be prepared for what's coming next. We got a financial storm coming in. We got shortages and supply chain issues coming in. We got World War III on the horizon. We got a lot to be concerned about, but we need to be getting stocked up and prepared so that we don't have to fear what is to come. All right, let's start here. We need to talk about the subprime auto loan delinquencies. That's a mouthful, I get it. So if you go into a car dealership and you're like, I want a loan, and they're like, you have crappy credit, and you're like, yeah, but can I still buy a car? They're going to be like, yes, you can. We're just going to charge you a really high interest rate, right? Remember how the subprime home mortgages is where the 2008 crisis went kablooey and off the charts, particularly as people became delinquent in those loans and mortgages started imploding. Well, today we have not the subprime mortgages, but the subprime auto loans. Now, it's not nearly as big, but it's not small either. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. Not quite trillions of dollars, but hundreds of billions of dollars is still enough to take down major banks, especially since a lot of these banks are highly leveraged in these investments. All right, so what kind of badness are we getting into? We're now at 8.36 interest rate for newly issued subprime auto loans. That's the kind of rate we're seeing out there. That's on average. Now, that's not like what you're going to get, by the way. Like, if you walk into one of these car dealerships, you're probably not going to see 8.36%. This is what happens when these banks sell that loan to another bank. Okay? Usually they have to let it age for a little bit to make sure you make the first couple payments. But when they sell it, they're going to sell it at 8.36% interest. They're going to hit you with like maybe 9, 10, 11% interest, and then they make profit off the difference. So, of these subprime loans, all of them, the delinquency rate for 60 days past due is now 6.56%, which is the highest it's ever been since the beginning of when they started tracking these statistics in 1994. This is worse than 2008. This is worse than the 2000-2001 tech crisis bubble. This is bad. People owe a lot of money on these loans because we talked about this before, where people were coming in to trade in their vehicle, still owing more money on that vehicle than what the trade-in value for that vehicle is, and they've been taking that excess and rolling it into the new loan. So they're buying a $30,000 new car with $40,000 debt, rolling off the lot, owing $40,000 on that car that they just purchased for $30,000 because they had $10,000 left over from the previous loan. And if you're like, Steve, that sounds borderline criminal. You're not allowed to do that. That's crazy. Because if the bank comes and repossesses your car and they can only sell for $20,000 now because it's not a new car anymore, they're going to be out that $20,000. Yeah. Sounds like, remember how those houses were underwater? Where the value of the house was less than the amount of money owed on the house? And people were turning in their keys and walking away? Guess what's happening right now, friends? People are looking down at the paper, realizing their car is worth this much, and that they owe this much. And people are putting their keys in the car and letting the bank come and tow it. Walking away. What does that do to your credit score? It's not good for your credit score. It's really not good for your credit score. But when you start talking about like $20,000, $30,000 or more, sometimes you just don't care about your credit score anymore because you just need to settle up your books, right? And let somebody else take the financial hit. Yeah, they're going to put some really nasty note on your credit report, but you know what? At some points, you're like, I'm not going to borrow any more money for the next little bit anyway. It's not like I'm going to get a down payment for a house. I'm just trying to make ends meet. And so more and more people are actually defaulting on their auto loans. And repossessions are happening at a faster pace than we've seen ever. We've heard from people doing repo. We've heard from people in towing companies and such. We've heard from people who can't get a tow truck to come out to them because the tow trucks are so busy repoing people's cars. Lots happening out there, friends. Interest rates, they're trying to trigger a recession so that they can cut interest rates. Whether the Trump administration is intentionally doing this or just kind of all their policies are leading to this anyway, it seems like it's partially intentional. We know that Donald Trump desperately wants the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. Well, how do you get that done? Well, you get them to cut interest rates by having a recession. And President Trump has said very clearly he's not watching the stock market right now. Now, I'm not talking about the stock market right now, but most of what we're talking about here clearly is going to impact the stock market. Okay, I'm talking about the real economy. I'm talking about jobs, businesses. I'm talking about people putting food on the table at home. This is what's happening. People's cars are getting repossessed, and people are letting it happen because they are so behind on their payments that they realize that this is the better way of doing it. And it's not just auto loans. Let's talk about credit cards. Credit card interest rates are ridiculous. I mean, they're always ridiculous, but they're even more ridiculous now. But yet, Americans are racking up more and more credit card debt as the months go by. They're used to this kind of standard of living. They can't afford that, so they're making it up by spending on credit cards. That only works for a few months. It's sort of like how the federal government hit its debt ceiling back on January 19th, right before President Trump came into office. And yet the federal government's still open and running. Why? Because the federal government is essentially using its credit cards to keep things going until March 14th, at which time it's going to finally hit the wall and run out of money and actually have to shut down. Americans ran out of money back in December, and you can see that here. They put Christmas on their credit cards. Increase of consumer credit card debt in December was $40.8 billion added to their credit cards. Christmas went on people's credit cards. Now, that may have happened to you, but it's happened to people that you know, if it hasn't happened to you. In January, did that get paid down? No, it did not. Another $18 billion got added to Americans' credit card debt. Are you seeing where this is going? We don't have our February numbers yet, but Not only did we not pay it down in January, but we added a whole lot more. Now, obviously, people spent less in January than they did on Christmas, okay? But this is a very bad situation. We're seeing more credit card debt being added at near record levels. This is a clear indication that the American consumer is tapped out and is now just frantically charging things on their credit cards. Do people have more jobs? Do people have more income coming in? That this is going to work out? No. And people are actually losing their jobs. Lots of people losing their jobs. Federal government employees, but then lots and lots of private sector people losing their jobs too. The jobs being added out there are not going to Americans, they're going to non-Americans. This is not a good situation. And the real economy out there is contracting. And as we start cutting federal spending, which is what we're doing right now at DOGE, you're going to see GDP for the United States to decline. Not increase slowly like it has been the last bunch of years. It's going to actually go negative. That's what we call recession, friends. There is no way that we do not go into a recession. With the cuts that are happening in the government, that's part of GDP. And we're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars over there. Is there billions and billions of dollars worth of profit being made somewhere in the private sector to offset all of that? No, there's not. GDP is going to drop. We are in recession right now. You just don't know it yet. Well, a lot of you already do know that, of course, but when we see these numbers, it's going to be shocking to a lot of people who aren't really following along. Major recession, loss of jobs. The financial markets are at some point going to catch up with this. We had the S&P, the NASDAQ came down hard last week a little bit, but that was only a short little drop. We got a lot more pain coming. And as we take hits on the financial markets, that means owners of businesses are going to have to pull back on spending at companies. More people laid off, which means less shopping, which means those stores and companies need to pull back on staffing and on purchases, which means other parts of the economy get hit by those losses. It turns into a cycle. And when do we get bailed out of that? Is the government going to bail us out this time? Are we going to have massive stimulus spending? Is the Federal Reserve going to reach down from on high and save us all by printing $1 bazillion, which is slightly more than $1 trillion? So you got, billion, trillion, and then bazillion are way, it's way up there. And that seems to be the sky's the limit. Is it going to be like where Zambia? Was it Zambia or Zimbabwe? Zimbabwe, where you can get the $10 trillion bills for about $10 now. And mostly the reason why they're $10 is not because they're worth $10 over in Zimbabwe, but rather because they're novelties over here in the West. I've been trying to get my hands on one of those things, but so I can show it on camera. But anyway, yeah, the $1 trillion bill, the $10 trillion bill. I think there's a $100 trillion bill that you can get out there too. That's where we're headed, where you're going to be having $100 trillion bills in your pocket, and they're not going to be worth very much. Our entire money supply is being just completely overwhelmed. So where does this bring us? Friends, you need to be buying hard assets. Physical metals is a great place to be, but before you go to precious metals, make sure that you're stocked up on food. Some of you are like, Steve, you can keep stocking up on more food. And I'm going to say this. If you've been stocking up food seriously for a while, you've come into realization that you only have so much room to store food. At some point, you need something that's a little more dense. And precious metals is great that way. Something that takes up a little less space. Because once you have so much food, you need to just store value. Because the financial crisis is not going to be just about food and energy and these other things, but it's going to be about having value that you can trade to other people who have things that you need. So, be stocking up on food, number one. Take care of your other needs. What happens if the power grid goes down? What if your water system stops working? What if you go to the store and you can't get anything? That's not some crazy scenario. You go to other countries, that's what's happening right now. Remember just a couple years ago during the cough, remember how you couldn't go to stores without complying? How they wanted you to have a little passport saying what kind of pokies you got? Those people haven't gone away. They're still your neighbors. And in the next crisis, I bet you that they'll come out with something just as Karen-y as that. You know, have your papers and documents prepared, whether it's World War III or whether it's an asteroid comes and hits the planet. Their answer is still going to be the same. We need more tyranny. We need to take away people's rights. They're going to say some people did something naughty after dark, and so therefore all the good people should stay home after dark too. That's their solution to everything. If bad people abuse some rights, we should take all those rights away from everybody. And like we say on this channel, and you've heard in so many other places, if the government can take away your right, it's not really a right. If the government can take it away, it's not a right. It's just something the government's been allowing you to do up till now. Hopefully you guys are getting prepared, whether it's from boomsticks, freedom seeds, whether you're working on your garden, whether you're working on getting more food supplies stocked up, you're getting your water systems ready, water filters, and more than anything, getting prepared mentally with the knowledge and the skills that you need in order to survive. Hopefully you guys are coming up with plans and planning with your loved ones and friends on what to do as things go sideways. We may have an electric grid, we may have water, natural gas, but if an economic crisis comes along and nobody can afford any of that stuff, that's something we need to be prepared for as well. You may lose your job, and the world may continue spinning, but will you be able to survive? Will your family be able to survive that? Great Depression, there was a lot of that. People just couldn't get jobs. They couldn't put food on the table. Food was available. They just couldn't afford it. All right, friends, keep thinking about those things. Starting a small side gig, something that a small business that you're running out of your home. That's how people survived the Soviet Union. So whether it's raising chickens and selling eggs, whether it's gardening a little bit, whether it's some kind of hobby that you have at home that you can sell your services to other people, whether it's working on cars, patching tires, doing practical things that can save other people money and can earn you some income. Think about all those things, friends. Lots of things to talk about. All right, thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report.